One of the best things in photography is creating a nice portrait. And that is one of the things that I love to do over my span of 8.5 years and counting. Portraits is just my forte, okay? I love getting a good one, a nice natural one. And today I'm about to show you how to get a perfect or close to perfect portrait every time that you shoot. So the most important thing that I'm going to start off with when it comes to making a great portrait is understanding your lighting and positioning. Now, when it comes to light, you have two different ones. You have a natural light, and then you also have artificial light if you're in the studio. So for me, a lot of my portraits are done through natural light and diffusing that with a nice sheet or something like that that covers it so that it can really give that nice softness to the subject or to the model. And if you are in studio, there are so many different ways in which you can diffuse your strobe lights with certain diffusers, certain soft boxes. That is the main thing, is just understanding what light you're going to use and how it's going to tell the story of your portrait. Because one thing for me, when I use natural light, it really does just enhance that cool, amazing beauty, natural essence of the person for me. So I always try to use that, but if I have to use a continuous box light, then I'm going to do that, because that can also do it as well. And then also, when it comes to positioning your subject or positioning your model, you really have to learn angles. Now, when it comes to getting them to get a nice portrait, sometimes straight on doesn't always have to happen. Like, it could be off to the side. I always tell them to kind of like turn 3/4 of the way, you know, and kind of give that not super straight profile, you know what I mean, but kind of give that off to the side as if you're looking out the window and your life is amazing. I always tell them, like, hey, I'm a fly on the wall, act like I'm not here, and kind of just look how you would look if you were just in the library, or if you were looking out the window, how would you look? And those are kind of my little things that I do. That's another, you know, story for another day on how to pose people. I believe I already talked about that. That's on here. Yeah, it's on here. So kind of check that out. But positioning them in the best way. So let's say you are using natural light. You want to position them in, if the light is coming down, like if you're at the top of the day, like 10 a.m., 11, it's going to be a little bit more harsher, 12 for sure. But then when it kind of goes down to those 2, 3, 4, then the sun is actually coming down, right? So and it may come right directly to them. So sometimes when the light is off centered and kind of pivoted up, like in a 45, then that is a great time to do it. If you're doing it outside and not in a studio with natural light, I would say find the best shade. So if you are like, because here's the thing, when you are working outside, harsh light is gonna be there if it's a nice sunny day, but then there are days where they are cloudy, which give that nice forecast, which actually works so amazing for a nice, just muted, soft look and light on the subject, on their highlights, on their just cheekbones. It's just beautiful. But if it's harsh, like I said before, find the shade. So maybe go into a corner of the street or under a tree, or go into like maybe like a hallway area outside, like a shopping area that has like a nice long hallway that is covered. You know, those are certain ways that you can do that. And then like if you are, like I said, with the studio lighting, you have to get the right soft box. I really suggest soft boxes, or just those nice diffused umbrellas, and they come in so many different sizes. So the more diffused it is, the more it'll seem as though it's coming right from the sun. More on positioning, I would say position your person in a way that goes towards the light. So if the light is over here, I'm gonna kind of make their, you know, face go this way, or tell them to maybe go this way. However, if you do it, the light is over here and you make them go this way, it'll bring the light on this area, and then it'll bring a nice kind of contrast on this side of your face. So it's so many different ways you can do it, and also it comes down to your artistic touch and what you feel like your style is. A lot of people may like where people are not facing the light and they have that contrast, which is so beautiful as well, because with natural light you can do that as well. If there's a big window here and it's coming directly here, this is going to be illuminated. This may be a little bit darker unless you have a field light. Maybe you have a softbox right next to it. And as a photographer, portraits is something that you should nail down for sure. Also, you just need to know your camera settings. So that's your aperture, your shutter speed, your ISO. When you understand those, you'll be able to manipulate the light in the way that you like to. But the biggest source of light is definitely what is in the area, what is in the location that you're using. When you get into the space of manipulating or just changing the aperture, that is where you're going to be able to open up the lens or close it in the way that, you know, speaks to the portrait that you want. Aperture is what really does control that depth of field, and with a good portrait, having that beautiful blurry background, especially if you're outside or outdoors, is so nice. So kind of going lower on that makes it less focused, and it can kind of make that blurry back there. But then the higher you go can make everything in focus with the aperture. So yeah, you have to play around, you have to just know them more. And I speak on that on this channel too, about camera settings and things of that nature. So yeah, get those understood and you will be good. And then for a great portrait, you need to understand framing, composition, and eye contact. The way you frame a portrait really is crucial. I really do believe that sometimes portraits really have this sense of a centeredness when you're looking at it, and eye contact. So when you're framing it, think about your background. Try to avoid a lot of noise in the background. Try to avoid just so much that's going on. Now, if you want to, if that is the way you want to do it, and it, you know, whatever's in the background you're using to tell a story, like you want to show their living space and they're in the center though, that's fine. But when it comes to just a nice clean portrait, make sure that you avoid distractions in the background. And then the most important thing is make sure that you connect with the eyes of the subject, of the model. And the way you can do that and make sure that they're sharp and striking is to focus on them with your camera. You can use Spot AF on your camera, but really make sure that when you're taking this photo that their eyes are coming through pretty striking, because that is the first thing that people see. Because think about it, when you're walking up the street or you're meeting somebody for lunch or something like that, the first thing you're gonna do, maybe shake their hand and look right into their eyes and say hello. So that's the same when it comes to photos. You're gonna look right there at the eyes and it's going to be really engaging. And then I would say you need to make sure that your subject is relaxed. The more relaxed they are, the more you're going to get out of them. The more tense they feel, the less you're going to get out of them. So that comes down to what you're telling them. That comes down to even how you are pacing your words with them. That starts with you as a photographer. You have to make them feel like, you know, y'all are besties, or at least make them feel like you really know what you're doing so that they can feel comfortable. So I would encourage them, if their shoulders begin to go up, because a lot of people's shoulders sometimes go up in a kind of like awkward way because they feel a little tense or vulnerable, make them go down. Just say, hey, relax your shoulders. And then sometimes when they're looking in the camera, they don't even understand how their chin is going up. Like if they're posing, their chin is going up. So say, hey, tilt your chin down just a little bit. Because one thing with tilting your chin down, you want to make sure that your eye contact is at eye level. So that helps for people to, you know, kind of engage more. Also, like I said before, straight on isn't always the best option. Asking them to look to the left or look to the right can be way more flattering to the face and for the viewer. So yeah, I would definitely make sure that you know how to pose people. And that takes practice. That takes years of understanding like how people move. And like I say on almost every photography video, if I don't, it's on majority of them, is that taking photos is a vulnerable thing. I don't care. You can speak to the most experienced model to the beginner person that's never taken a photo but they're trying to do it for their family. It is vulnerable because you don't know how you look, especially if you don't have a mirror in front of you. You don't know how you look. You don't really, you can't see yourself. That's really the basis of it. And you may not know like what best looks you're giving. So when you know that as a photographer, you can really play into helping them feel important and comfortable and relaxed. Also, when it comes to posing, I would suggest to give clear instructions. One thing that I have been blessed to hear from a lot of the people that I work with is like, man, Ashley, your direction is so good. Thank you, because I didn't know what I was doing. I felt like I looked ugly, you know, and I say that humbly, and I'm so grateful for that. But give clear direction. Let them know, hey, look to your left. Hey, look to your right. Hey, look behind your shoulder. Hey, cross your arms. Maybe put your hand under your chin. Like, hey, what does it look like if you open your hand on your chin or on your cheek? What does it look like if you turn to your left with your hand on your cheek? Put it under. Put your hand, curl your hand under. Or hey, what does it look like when you come off of your chin? What do you do naturally? Do you just take it off? Does it come off like this? Does it go over your shoulder? And kind of let them be engaged with what they're doing as well. But when you are clear, when you are distinct, when you know how to direct, it's really going to make them feel more confident and comfortable with working with you. Then the last way that I feel like you can have an amazing portrait is in your post-processing. So whatever software you use, whether it's Lightroom, Photoshop, Capture One, I really do feel like the two things that you'll play with is the contrast and brightness, but also the softness of the skin. So there is a feature in Lightroom, because that's what I use, that allows you to soften skin lightly or soften skin a little bit more harshly. I use it all the time. And also when it comes to contrast, a good portrait is, I feel like, in my opinion, maybe this is from my style, so I don't know, you know, don't judge me. I really do feel like it's a great combination of contrast and good saturation. So when you know that your client has on like a colorful shirt, or they have a nice deep brown eye, or maybe it's a blue eye or green eye, whatever, and you have some good saturation, not super high, because then that looks just not real, but to get that nice natural portrait, I would heighten it up just a little bit. And then with contrast, that goes with some of the shadows, that may darken the shadows a little bit, or it may mute it a little bit more, make it a little bit less, you know, like, what's the word, detailed, or take some of the depth out of it. And that's up to you, because at the end of the day, guys, yes, this is my advice on good portraits, but then there is also a thing called the artistic touch, where you have a style. There are some photographers that don't like contrast, like to look muted, and that's their way of doing it. Or there are some photographers that love high saturation, so it can kind of look cartoony or like unreal. And then there are some photographers that kind of play with that double exposure, where you have something in focus and then something that's blurry across it or behind it. Like, it really does depend on your style. But for beginners or those that are trying to learn how to really hone in on a portrait, this is my advice, and I hope it helps, because this is one of my favorite things that I love to do, and it's traced along all of my work between all these years that I've been doing it, and it's my favorite thing. So yeah, take what you can, take what you need from this, and apply it to what you are already doing. But once again, thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. I hope that it can assist you with your photography journey, or even if you are an expert and you've been doing this for years, it's no problem in sharpening up those skills and just learning from somebody that has been out there in the field for past 5 years, almost going on 9. I'm grateful. So thank you guys so much, and I will see y'all on the next video.